Teachers of Reddit, what is the most disturbing thing you've heard a student say? Hey friend, please take 2 seconds to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy these videos. I post new videos every single day. A kid missed his bus home and had an absolute meltdown. Eventually, it came out that his dad told him that if he missed the bus again, he'd hold his head underwater, even longer this time. Edit. To address some of the questions and comments that came up a lot. Yes, the authorities were called. I don't know what exactly happened with the student, but I do know he was back in school soon after. I don't know how he's doing today. When he reached middle school, he transferred to another school district. As a school employee, I am a mandated reporter. This happened before the law changed to include new guidelines. Today I would be required to immediately call it into the state hotline and then report it to my principal. At the time, the procedure for my role, IT, not a teacher, was to notify either the school nurse or principal of suspected abuse. Because the principal was on the scene, I didn't need to report it. The guidance counselor, social worker, and school resource office were all called in, and the police were on the scene by the time I left work a little bit later. If I wasn't sure whether they'd contacted authorities, I absolutely would have reported it, but I trusted my principal. She was a fierce advocate for every student, especially the ones in tough situations. If you want a happy ending on this story, unfortunately, I can't tie it up with a nice ribbon. I don't know how he's doing today. Better, I hope. What I do know is that I worked at a school with staff who care about their students and fight hard to get kids the help they need. They are able to help a lot of kids, but sometimes the system fails. It's a sad fact of life. But to end it on a positive note, I came from an abusive household myself. Not nearly as severe as this situation, thankfully, but abuse was present. It's possible for children of abuse to break the cycle and go on to lead happy and fulfilling lives, despite the hand they were dealt. If you came from a rough background, you can still get help as an adult. You can't change the past, but you can heal, and you can help others get the help they need to. Oh, no, was anything done to help the kid? He was already in a program for kids who needed extra emotional support. The police were there by the time I left for the day, and I'm not sure what ended up happening. I work in IT, so I wasn't directly involved, but it happened right outside my office so I could hear everything. That was one of those days that I drove home with no music or podcasts playing, just silence, and staring straight ahead the entire drive home. Was an aide in a guidance office. The most disturbing was a kid we'll call Tyler. He had severe social adjustment issues and tended to say things that creeped people out. One day, he comes in wanting to talk to a counselor. I was playing receptionist that day and told him I'd let them know and asked what was up. He very blankly says, "I tried to walk out into traffic yesterday." This was obviously alarming, so I brought him straight to one of their offices. He repeats what he told me, and this effing bitch counselor says, "You need to come back later. I'm working on college admission stuff for other students." He just kind of sighed and left. The counselor's comment is more disturbing than the kid's. I once had a piano student who said he couldn't practice at home because his stepfather would beat him to have to listen to it. I had a student who was sweet and innocent to adults. However, when alone with other kids, he would curse at them and manipulate them to do his bidding. When the other students would complain, the student would act innocent and deflect anything that was said to him. I couldn't prove anything when I expressed my concerns to mom. Mom played the victim. One day, however, I introduced Flipgrid, a video recording service for assignments, to which the student went on video and started spewing racial slurs to another student. On video, this boy exposed himself. I sent the video to our principal. Mom gets called in to have a conference. Mom plays the victim again about his behavior. The student gets transferred shortly after. Well, I can guess where he gets it from. Coached elementary PE. Had a 9-year-old student call me an infested tampon sucker. More surprised than angry. At the time, I was 23 and never heard an insult like that. R/rare insults. Tampon sucker sounds like some sort of derogatory epithet for vampires. I was teaching a high school jewelry and metal shop class, and some students alerted me to one student trying to sneak out some of the metal files. When confronted, he said he wanted to use them to stab people in the halls. I had him removed permanently, to say the least. Co-workers told me a sad story of a boy who had weapons in his backpack. Other students came forward one day and said, "Mrs., we think you should look in boy's backpack. There's some stuff in there that's not allowed." These boys were usually happy-go-lucky, and at this time they were clearly worried themselves. Teachers found tools in the backpack which might seem chill, but there was definitely something off, like 2 hammers and a couple of screwdrivers, which had been filed down. After some discussions, the sad story came to light. The boy was not in a safe home. His father, or stepfather, I'm not exactly sure, was abusive to the boy and his mother. Apparently, they had recently had a confrontation, and the boy was sent to stay at a friend or neighbor's house. He stole the tools from the workshop in that house. Pretty much grabbed anything he could in the moment he had, anything he thought he could use, to defend his mom next time. This kid was 13. My mom's a teacher, and she says there was a student that used to make these little paper drug packets, and he didn't even know what they were. She says that the mother was a drug dealer, and would make him make them all day long, if he wasn't in school. Safe to say, the police were involved after certain things happened, like her never turning up to the school to collect him one night, and other stuff. Pretty weird how a child was making literal drug packets and had no idea. He was just proud of them, because that was the only thing he was taught how to do at home. A student once told me he was going to burn his house down. We talked about how that would ruin his house, and how he could possibly hurt his mom and dad, or himself. His reply was, "I'd make sure my mom was dead before I burn it down." This kid is 8. Edit. Thanks for all the upvotes. I work as a special education teacher, specifically with students who are emotionally disturbed, or have other disorders that impact their behavior. This isn't even the most effed up thing I've heard, just one of the most memorable. Also, for those of you wondering about the possibility of abuse, I truly do not believe he is being abused. He has been my student for several years, and it's not uncommon for him to make disturbing statements. In fact, if I had $1 for every time he told me he was going to poison or stab someone, I would almost have enough money to fully fund my classroom. I had a student tell me about his parents leaving salt around the house. Bizarre, but I didn't connect the dots until they were arrested. Turns out, that was cocaine. I was thinking Winchesters. I was thinking witches. Trying to convince a 17-year-old student that drugs are not the way to go, and that he has a full life ahead of him, when he says, "Doesn't matter, I'm gonna be dead or in jail by the time I'm 25. He had been told he was nothing his whole life, and he absolutely believed it. Spent up until he graduated trying to prove him wrong. Edit. Oh goodness. Thank you kind Redditors for the awards. Unfortunately, I have since left teaching at that school, and don't have a way to contact him. Last we talked, he was thinking of trade school. I once got a random, guess what? My dad's in jail for stabbing my mom. He was a first grader.